What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel, and if you guys are new, welcome. We got a lot going on this week with the Marathon Alpha being released on the 23rd, which I do believe is Wednesday, so we will be grinding that out, doing a little stream on that, making some videos for y'all since the old NDA got thrown out the window, which is super dope, so y'all better be on the lookout for that. But we're going to continue some Destiny builds for y'all this week as well, coming out with 3 of them, one today, one Wednesday, one Friday, with that sprinkle of Marathon being thrown in there after Wednesday as well. So starting us out though, we're going to be using a Strand Hunter build right here with Lucky Pants, so we can do some pretty good damage with a nice beautiful dual burst hand cannon that we got from the Sundered Doctrine dungeon, as well as taking advantage of our artifact with all the strand bonuses, tangles, everything like that. So the Lucky Pants that we are talking about in building this around, if you will, with the Strand synergy that of course we got on this build in general, and that double tap, double powered hand cannon. We got ourselves improved slide, sprint, and airborne effectiveness while a hand cannon is equipped for a short time after we draw the hand cannon. It is readied faster, more accurate, and each hit against a combatant increases the damage. That is mostly why we're using this for that endgame content. It's going to have unraveling on it. We're going to be able to create tangles with it. It already does a good amount of damage being that dual burst hand cannon, and then illegal modded holster makes it even better with those Lucky Pants and that Strand synergy. So starting this out, we're going to be using the Thread Runner with a Silk Strike, of course. As for our abilities, we got ourselves a Marksman Dodge with that old triple jump. We got our Threaded Spike, and then I went with the Shackle Grenade so we could get that extra bit of suspend on those enemies. Pairs very well with the artifact that we got as well. We're going to be creating a bunch of tangles with this build, so we're going to be using Whirlwind Maelstrom to create those Strand Rush Shurikens, if you will, with destroying tangles. Is going to create those strand fibers where it's going to track around 2 enemies, damage them, as well as unravel them, which will help us to create even more tangles and even more suspension, which you will see why in a second here, just because we're going to be able to get back our abilities very quickly and then use that ensnaring slam. So more of that suspend like I was talking about, using the ability extends class reduction cooldown time, if you will, so this is going to come back a little bit slower, but hence why we're going to be using the Whirlwind Maelstrom to get all of that unraveling to go on. Plus it's going to be for our anti-barriers, and with how we have this built out, we're going to be able to get back our abilities very quickly and suspend even more targets with our ensnaring slam as well as our shackle grenade. When we move on to our fragments, we got 4 of them in our strand subclasses. First off, we're going to be using a Thread of Mutation. While we have Woven Mail, Final Blows create tangles. We're going to get that Woven Mail pretty easily with this build. One of the reasons that we're getting that is the Thread of Warding, so picking up all those orbs of power is going to help us to create it. Plus on our artifact, when we destroy tangles on enemies, it is going to have a pulse that is going to be able to give us, as well as our fellow guardians, Woven Mail. We got Thread of Binding, so our super final blows are going to create a a suspending burst that's going to help us to just pair with everything that we got, suspending targets all over the place, and then defeating those suspended targets is going to help us get back our class abilities. So that's what I was talking about, being able to use the shackle, use the whirlwind, and then using ensnaring slam kind of feeds right back into being able to get our subclass and our abilities back very quickly with this build. So we're going to be using Silk Strike all the time, as well as being able to suspend targets in a multitude of different ways. Now, as for our weapons that we're going to be using on this build, for me, I'm using that Unloved, like I'm talking about, to pair with the Lucky Pants. Plus, this thing has that subjugation, and with the ability for this thing to create us some even more tangles, pairs with the Threaded Runner even better. And when we do get those unraveling rounds, this is going to be our anti-barrier weapon right here. Now, we're going to be using the Edge of Action, which is going to be our Unstoppable, and the Pro Memoria, which is going to be our Overload weapon. But this right here is going to be able to block a good amount of damage in that endgame activity. Plus, it's going to give us a good amount of volatility being created and volatile rounds for this thing, just by getting those projectile explosions on it, or the projectile final defeats. So I do really like having that on. And then the Envious Bait and Switch, just addition for us to create even more synergy with the Strand build, help us to create some more tangles, plus do a little bit more damage with the Bait and Switch side of this weapon. Now, as we go on to our mods that we got for this bad boy, we're going to be using the good old resilience at 100, mobility I wanted at 80, not too big of a difference between 80 and 100 in my personal opinion, and then kind of stack these out just so we could get our grenade back pretty quickly, and then stack everything else out pretty evenly. I know that our recovery is a wee bit low for this, but it is what it is, and we're getting a pretty good survivability from the amount of suspend that we have on this and being able to get away. Plus, we got ourselves some nice artifact perks on this bad boy as well. But as for the mods, we're going to be using that harmonic void siphon for a bunch of different orbs of power to be able to create with that Reaper. So when we do dodge, it does help us to create more orbs of power, which we are using specifically for that special ammo finisher. So when we do finish targets, we're going to get ammo in the special ammo variety for our entire team. Powerful attraction: when we do dodge, all of those orbs of power are going to collect near us at least, so we're going to be able to proc all of that with getting the armor charge plus absolution with recuperation, get a little bit of health back when we pick up those orbs, plus going to be able to get back all of our abilities inside of the melee, our shackle grenade, as well as our dodge. So nice little feedback loop for the GM that I was going into. Concussive with double solar resistance. This is always up to the activity, in my personal opinion, what you are going into, what's hitting the hardest, what is that like burn that has a 25% damage increase on you. Always try to throw those on and help us out for that survivability. With last but not least, the positive feedback loop of getting our abilities back by having our class ability come back when we do damage with our grenade, as well as when we do damage with our melee via focusing strike, bolstering detonation, and then impact induction. When we do damage with our melee, we're going to get our grenade back. So that suspend is going to be everywhere with this build because of our shackle grenade, as well as our ensnaring slam, and then you'll see in a second with our artifact how everything kind of ties together. So right here, like I'm talking about, is our tablet of ruin. So to pair with everything, we got that overload machine gun, unstoppable glaive like I was talking about, unraveling orbs. When we pick up an orb of power or tangles, it's going to give us unraveling rounds for both our LMG as well as our hand cannon, mostly for our hand cannon though, because Lucky Pants with anti-barrier kind of disgusting. And then this is where everything kind of starts coming into play with the Strand synergy. Targets hit by tangles are severed, which tangles reduce the cooldown by picking one up. Super nice for us. And then dealing sustained damage to a severed target unravels them. Defeating a severed target creates a hotspot of Strand energy that creates that woven mail for us, so ties right back into creating even more tangles, even more sever effects with how we're going to have this play with that whirlwind maelstrom for the Strand rush shurikens that are going to be flying around, if you will, and then everything else that I was talking about with getting our abilities back. It is super nice synergy with this build. On top of that, we're going to be able to get even more of those tangles to be procced because of elemental siphon right here. So our weapons that match our Strand subclass going to be able to create those elemental pickups, which for us are even more tangles. Disruptor spike is super nice because with this we're going to have a weapon that does have the subjugation origin trait, which is exhaust on enemies, so that's going to be even better. Sever's coming from what we got with the tangles and 2 shreds down here, so pairs perfectly with that. Hold the line is going to be nice, so our glaives as well as our machine guns are going to help us to heal ourselves, which is also super nice for that end game activity. We're going to be using both of those, of course, on this build. Tangles are going to be able to create even more threadlings, of course, when we're damaging unraveling targets, because that's what our whirlwind does. Plus, we're going to be able to have those unraveling orbs on top of that with the rapid glaive melee final blows. Grant a special ammo for that glaive. Damaging with the glaive increases our melee output, so again, nice little feedback loop for that, with the last but not least being heavy ordnance regeneration. When we do sustained damage with that machine gun on those targets, we are going to have damage resistance, which is nice for that end game. Plus, we're going to get our grenade and our melee back, so we're going to be able to suspend even more enemies, plus with our melee, of course, and that feedback loop that we got in our armor perks, everything, picking up orbs of power, we're going to be able to get back all of our abilities very fast with the synergy of this build. definitely like what's going on. We can juice some pretty good damage on this with the Lucky Pants, like I said, and that dual burst hand cannon feels really good. We're creating tangles everywhere with this build. We're going to have a woven mail for us as well as our fellow guardians to be able to be procced very easily. All the tangles that we got, throwing them around is going to create a bunch of sever. We're going to have unravel on this build, so we're basically hitting every single one of the verbs that we can for the Strand subclass: sever, unravel, suspend, as well as woven mail. So pretty juicy combination that we got going on. Survivability pretty easy in that end game. Like I said, we can suspend targets to run away. We got ourselves recuperation. Picking up orbs of power is going to give us some health, as well as the artifact mod that we got on hold the line when we get defeats with our LMG, as well as with our melee, is going to help us to get some health back on top of that. So perfect synergy, lots of super energy. We're getting our super back very quickly. We're going to suspend literally everything and just have a beautiful Strand synergy that we got inside of this episode. Like I said, I appreciate all you guys for always coming back to the channel. Means a lot to me, means a lot to the channel. We got a big week ahead of us for sure with Marathon coming out. That is going to be super dope, especially since the NDAs all got lifted and we're going to be able to stream as well as make some videos on it. Definitely going to help with the feedback of the game, I really hope, as well as just us in general going to be able to show it off to more people is going to be super nice, I think, in my personal opinion. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Like I said, we're going to stream some, so don't be afraid to like, subscribe, hit that bell so you get the notifications for the streams that we're going to put out, as well as all the videos that we usually put out on the channel. Like I said, we got 3 builds coming out: Hunter, Warlock, Titan this week for the Heresy stuff that we got going on, but we are going to try to put out at least 1, maybe 2 videos on Marathon, as well as, like I said, stream it a good bit this week. So be on the lookout for all of that. I appreciate all you guys. As always, I will catch you in the next one. Peace.